I was standing in front of the mirror wearing my dream wedding dress, thinking about how perfect everything was about to be. 3 weeks until I married David, my college sweetheart. My sister Sophia was adjusting the veil, smiling that familiar smile I had grown up seeing. We had always been competitive, but this was my moment. Nothing could ruin it. Then David's phone buzzed with a text message, and something in his expression changed completely. The way he quickly turned the screen away made my stomach drop. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely. And do not forget to subscribe because what I did next will absolutely shock you. The revenge I got was sweeter than any wedding cake could have ever been. I should have trusted my instincts that day in the bridal shop. Over the next few days, David started acting strange. He would step outside to take phone calls claiming they were work-related. His eyes would not meet mine during dinner conversations. When I tried to discuss wedding details, he seemed distracted, almost guilty about something. Sophia was acting odd too. My sister, who had been my maid of honor and supposedly excited about helping me plan everything, suddenly became unavailable. She canceled our cake tasting appointment, claiming she had to work late at her marketing job. She missed our final dress-fitting appointment, saying she felt sick. These were events she had been looking forward to for months. The first real red flag came when I was cleaning David's car. We were supposed to drive to the venue together for our final walkthrough, and I wanted everything to be perfect. As I vacuumed the passenger seat, I found a long blonde hair caught in the headrest. It was not mine. My hair is brown and barely reaches my shoulders. Sophia has beautiful long blonde hair that she is constantly flipping and touching. I held that strand of hair in my trembling fingers, trying to convince myself it could have belonged to anyone. Maybe a colleague who needed a ride. Maybe someone from his gym. But deep down something cold was settling in my chest. The way David had been acting, combined with Sophia's sudden distance, was creating a picture I did not want to see. That evening, David received another mysterious phone call. He glanced at the screen, and I caught a glimpse of the caller ID before he quickly declined it and put the phone face down. The name on the screen made my blood freeze. Sophia. Why would my sister be calling my fiancé at 8 o'clock at night? Why would he decline her call and look so uncomfortable about it? When I asked him about it, David stammered something about Sophia wanting to coordinate a surprise for me. His explanation felt hollow, rehearsed. I knew David well enough to recognize when he was lying. He had this tell where he would rub the back of his neck when he was not being truthful. He did it 3 times during that conversation. I started paying closer attention. The next day, I noticed David left for work earlier than usual. When I called his office around lunchtime, his secretary said he was in meetings all day. But later that afternoon, Sophia posted an Instagram story from a coffee shop downtown. The same coffee shop where David had told me he was meeting a potential client. The timestamp on her story was exactly when David claimed to be in his client meeting. My hands were shaking as I screenshot the image. There was Sophia looking perfectly put together in a red dress I had never seen before, smiling at something off camera. The location tag confirmed my worst suspicion. This could not be a coincidence. My sister and my fiancé were at the same place at the same time, and neither of them had mentioned it to me. I made a decision that would change everything. Instead of confronting them over the phone, I drove to the coffee shop. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I parked across the street and looked through the large windows. What I saw will be burned into my memory forever. David and Sophia were sitting in a corner booth, leaning toward each other like lovers. His hand was covering hers on the table. She was laughing at something he said, the same laugh she used when she was flirting with guys in college. They looked comfortable together, like this was not their first secret meeting. The way they were touching, the intimate body language, told me everything I needed to know. I sat in my car for 20 minutes watching them. I needed to be absolutely certain before I destroyed my life. During those 20 minutes, I watched David brush a strand of hair from Sophia's face. I watched her lean in and whisper something in his ear that made him smile. I watched them share a piece of cake, taking turns feeding each other with the same fork. These were not the actions of future brother and sister-in-law. These were the actions of two people who were romantically involved. When I finally walked into that coffee shop, my legs felt like jelly. The bell above the door announced my arrival, and both of them looked up. The guilt on their faces was immediate and undeniable. David went pale. Sophia's eyes widened with shock, but there was something else there too. Something that looked almost like relief. I sat down at their table without being invited. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then I asked the question that would end my engagement and change my relationship with my sister forever. How long has this been going on? David tried to deny it at first. He stammered about coincidences and innocent meetings. But Sophia, my own sister, looked me straight in the eye and said, 2 months. We have been seeing each other for 2 months, Ava. The words hit me like a physical blow. 2 months. While I was planning our wedding, choosing flowers, addressing invitations, my fiancé had been having an affair with my sister. While I was excitedly showing Sophia pictures of wedding dresses and asking her opinion on everything, she was sleeping with the man I was about to marry. When I asked why, Sophia's answer was even more devastating than the betrayal itself. She said, "I always get what I want, Eva. You have always had everything handed to you. I decided it was my turn." I drove home in a complete daze. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white, but I felt disconnected from my own body. The life I had been building, the future I had been planning, had just crumbled in the span of 30 minutes. 3 weeks before my wedding, I was suddenly single and heartbroken. When I got home, I did what needed to be done. I called the wedding venue and canceled everything. The flowers, the photographer, the caterer, the band. Each phone call felt like another small death. The wedding planner was sympathetic, but professional. She had dealt with canceled weddings before, though probably not many where the bride discovered her fiancé was cheating with her own sister. The worst part was telling my parents. My mother cried when I explained what had happened. My father was furious, calling David names I had never heard him use before. But when it came to Sophia, their reaction was different. They were disappointed, yes, but they kept making excuses for her. "She is young," my mother said. "She probably did not realize how much she was hurting you." "Maybe she was confused about her feelings," my father added. This was nothing new. My entire life, Sophia had gotten away with things that I never could. When we were kids and she broke my toys, it was an accident. When she told lies about me to get me in trouble, she was just going through a phase. When she stole my boyfriend in high school, my parents said I needed to be more understanding because Sophia was finding herself. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, memories came flooding back. I remembered how Sophia had always wanted whatever I had. My favorite doll when we were 5, my best friend Sarah when we were 12, my acceptance letter to college when we were 18. She had a pattern of taking things that belonged to me, and somehow I had always forgiven her because she was my little sister. But this was different. This was not a toy or a friend or an opportunity. This was the man I was going to marry. This was my future, my happiness, my trust. She had not just taken something from me. She had destroyed something that could never be replaced. That is when I remembered Jake Morrison. Jake, the brilliant neurosurgeon who had been Sophia's obsession throughout college. She had followed him around for 3 years, showing up at his study groups, volunteering for the same charitable organizations, even changing her major to pre-med just to be in the same classes. Jake had always been kind to her, but never interested romantically. He treated her like a friend, nothing more. What Sophia never knew was that Jake had always asked about me. Every time he saw me on campus, he would stop to chat. He remembered details about my life, my classes, my internships. When I was dating David seriously, Jake had stepped back respectfully. He never pursued me because he knew I was taken, but I always sensed there could have been something between us under different circumstances. I remembered Sophia crying to me about Jake countless times. She would beg me to put in a good word for her to invite him to parties, where she would be to help her figure out what he liked in women. I had felt sorry for her unrequited love and tried to help. Now I realized how naive I had been. While I was trying to help Sophia get the man she wanted, she was plotting to take the man I loved. The next morning I made a decision. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, I was going to take control of my life. I was not going to let Sophia win by destroying me. I was going to show her what it felt like to watch someone else have something you desperately wanted. I texted Jake explaining that David and I had broken up and asking if he wanted to meet for coffee. I told him I was going through a difficult time and could use a friend to talk to. Jake responded immediately saying he was sorry to hear about my situation and would love to catch up. We arranged to meet that afternoon at a cafe in downtown Denver. When I saw Jake again after 2 years, I was reminded of everything I had forgotten about him. He was tall and distinguished with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He had always been handsome in an understated way, but now there was a maturity about him that was incredibly attractive. He listened as I explained what had happened without judgment or prying questions. He was exactly what I needed, someone who cared about me without any ulterior motives. As we talked, I realized that what I was feeling was not just strategic. Jake was genuinely wonderful company. He was intelligent, funny, and surprisingly easy to open up to. He told me about his residency, his work at the hospital, his plans for the future. For the first time in weeks, I felt like myself again instead of just a victim of betrayal. Over the next month, Jake and I began spending more and more time together. What started as casual coffee meetings evolved into dinner dates, hiking trips, and long conversations that lasted until midnight. I discovered that we had an incredible amount in common. We both loved mystery novels, foreign films, and cooking elaborate meals on Sunday afternoons. We shared the same sense of humor and the same values about family and career. Jake was everything that David had not been. Where David was sometimes selfish and inattentive, Jake was thoughtful and present. Where David had been content to let me plan everything in our relationship, Jake took initiative and surprised me with thoughtful gestures. He remembered that I loved sunflowers and showed up with a bouquet after a particularly stressful day at work. He noticed when I was tired and suggested we stay in and order takeout instead of going out. Most importantly, Jake made me feel valued and respected. He asked for my opinions and actually listened to my answers. He supported my career goals and encouraged me to apply for a promotion I had been considering. With David, I had often felt like I was accommodating his needs and preferences. With Jake, I felt like an equal partner in whatever we were building together. I was not using Jake to get revenge on Sophia, though I knew that would be a side effect of our relationship. My feelings for him were genuine and growing stronger every day. He made me laugh in ways I had forgotten were possible. He challenged me intellectually and supported me emotionally. For the first time since the betrayal, I was genuinely happy instead of just pretending to be okay. Jake was honest about his feelings too. One evening, as we were walking through the park near his apartment, he stopped and took my hands. "Eva," He said, "I need you to know that I have had feelings for you for years. I never acted on them because you were with David. But now that you are free, I do not want to waste any more time pretending I do not care about you." His honesty was refreshing and terrifying at the same time. I had been so hurt by David's deception that the idea of trusting someone new felt risky. But Jake had never lied to me. Even when we were just friends, he had been straightforward about his thoughts and feelings. If he said he cared about me, I believed him. That night, I posted a picture of Jake and me on social media for the first time. We were at a restaurant downtown, and he was making me laugh about something the waiter had said. I looked genuinely happy in the photo, which felt like a victory in itself. I captioned it simply, "Good company and great food." I was not trying to send a message to Sophia, but I knew she would see it eventually. She called me 3 hours later. I was at Jake's apartment, and we were watching a movie when my phone rang. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. Sophia was furious in a way I had never heard before. "What are you doing with Jake?" she demanded without even saying hello. "I am spending time with a friend," I replied calmly. "He is not your friend, Eva. You know how I feel about him. You know I have always loved him." The irony of her words was stunning. Here was my sister who had stolen my fiancé and destroyed my wedding, demanding that I stay away from a man she had never been able to have. The selfishness and entitlement in her voice made my decision easy. "Sophia," I said, "you taught me that we take what we want in this family. I am just following your example." She hung up on me, but I felt lighter than I had in months. For the first time since discovering her betrayal, I had stood up for myself instead of trying to keep the peace. The next day, Sophia showed up at my apartment. She was crying and angry and desperate in a way I had never seen her before. She begged me to stop seeing Jake. She promised to end things with David if I would just leave Jake alone. She said she was sorry for everything and would do anything to make it up to me. But it was too late for apologies. I had spent too many years forgiving Sophia for taking things that mattered to me. I had enabled her behavior by always being understanding, always putting family harmony above my own needs. Not this time. "I am not doing this to hurt you, Sophia," I told her. "I am doing this because Jake makes me happy. For the first time in months, I feel like myself again. If you cannot understand that, then you have never really loved me the way a sister should." She left my apartment that day, and we did not speak for weeks. I heard through my parents that she and David had broken up, which did not surprise me. Sophia had always been more interested in the chase than the relationship itself. Once she had won David away from me, the thrill was gone. Jake and I continued growing closer. He met my parents, who loved him immediately. He was respectful, intelligent, and clearly devoted to me. Even my mother, who had always favored Sophia, admitted that Jake treated me better than David ever had. 3 months after my canceled wedding, Jake asked me to move to Seattle with him. He had been offered a position at a prestigious hospital there, and he wanted me to come with him. It was a chance for both of us to start fresh away from the drama and history that had defined my life in Denver. Moving to Seattle was the best decision I ever made. Jake and I found a beautiful apartment near the waterfront, and I quickly found a position at an accounting firm downtown. For the first time in my adult life, I was in a relationship where I felt completely secure and valued. Jake proposed to me on our first anniversary on the same hiking trail where we had our second date. It was simple and perfect, nothing like the elaborate engagement David had planned. Jake had chosen the ring himself, a vintage piece that reflected my personality instead of following current trends. When he asked me to marry him, I did not hesitate for even a second. Our wedding was everything my canceled wedding was supposed to be, but better. It was smaller and more intimate, with only the people who truly mattered to us. My parents came to Seattle for the ceremony, and they were genuinely happy for me. Even they could see that Jake and I belonged together in a way that David and I never had. Sophia was not invited to my wedding. She had made several attempts to reconcile over the months, but I was not ready to trust her again. Some betrayals are too deep to simply forgive and forget. I needed time and distance before I could even consider rebuilding our relationship. I heard through my parents that Sophia had struggled after David and I both moved on. She had expected David to choose her permanently, but he had quickly realized that she was not someone he could build a life with. She had expected me to stay single and heartbroken, giving her the satisfaction of having destroyed my happiness. Instead, I had found something better than what she had taken from me. A year after my wedding to Jake, I received a letter from Sophia. She apologized sincerely for everything she had done and acknowledged that her behavior had been selfish and destructive. She said she had been in therapy and was working on understanding why she had always felt the need to compete with me instead of supporting me. I appreciated her apology, but I was not ready to respond. Maybe someday we would be able to rebuild our relationship, but it would have to be on my terms. I had learned the importance of protecting myself from people who would hurt me, even if they were family. The most surprising part of this whole experience was realizing that Sophia had actually done me a favor. If she had not stolen David, I never would have ended up with Jake. David and I had been comfortable together, but we were not truly compatible. We were together because it was easy and expected, not because we brought out the best in each other. Jake and I challenge each other to grow and improve every day. We support each other's dreams and celebrate each other's successes without competition or jealousy. We communicate honestly, even when it is difficult. We have built something together that feels unshakable, not because it is perfect, but because it is based on mutual respect and genuine love. Looking back, I realize that what happened taught me valuable lessons about boundaries, self-respect, and the difference between love and convenience. I learned that forgiveness does not mean accepting ongoing mistreatment. I learned that sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to the best outcomes we never could have imagined. Sometimes the best way to win is not to defeat your enemy, but to become the best version of yourself. And I won in a way I never expected to. I did not just get revenge on Sophia. I got the life I was actually meant to have. The betrayal that was supposed to destroy me ended up setting me free to find real happiness, and for that I will always be grateful. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had someone close to you betray your trust in a way that changed everything? How did you handle it, and what did you learn about yourself in the process? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because your story might help someone else who is going through something similar. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming betrayal and finding strength you never knew you had. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that. Sometimes our worst experiences lead to our best lives. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you are stronger than whatever challenges you are facing. Your best chapters are still being written.